Okay, so I'm just on.
Keep me searching for a heart of gold.
Richard, how you doing?
Keep me searching, I'm growing old. Keep me searching for a heart.
Those are really good. I discovered those over the holidays.
Been a miner for a heart of gold.
And what diet is that? What diet is that? Okay, so you don't really stay away from many sweets, I guess. That's a problem for me because I like noodles, I like spaghetti, pasta. Well, this will look like this.
Yes.
See, I only want to lose like 12 pounds in 3 months. Sounds very reasonable. I'm just too lazy to do any exercise. I'm totally unmotivated to walk. Just push
Testing,
back,
testing.
right? Do some pushbacks.
I'd like to call the town hall meeting at Silver Bluff by the Board of Education to order, please. We appreciate your coming out. We have a small number, so you're going to have to really, everybody has to speak tonight. We'd like to begin the meeting with a moment of silence. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce the Silver Bluff NJROTC, who are going to present the colors. Would you all stand, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to begin our meeting this evening with some informational items from Mr. Lawrence. Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the board, and everyone who's here. I want to welcome you, and thank you for coming out here this evening. We're looking forward to having some good dialogue with members of the community. It's been 3 years since we were last at Silver Bluff for a town hall meeting. Back then, we had a lot of things that were going on. We were doing a population study, or we'd actually just completed the population study when we were last here. We were looking at enrollment trends around the school district. That resulted later that year, or just a few months from the date of that meeting, in $90 million bond referendum, the redrawing of some attendance lines. There's a lot going on, and a lot of good discourse in the community. This time around, it's good to be back in the Silver Bluff area. We had a lot of construction projects going on then. At this time, there isn't any major construction projects that are on tap for the Silver Bluff, Jackson, and New Ellington area. However, as we've talked about over the last few years, as we approach the next renewal of the penny sales tax, Silver Bluff is certainly going to figure as an important piece in those projects. So 2024, that's going to be coming around again. Some other things I just want to mention to you that are going on. I know everybody is interested in our hybrid learning model. Everybody's interested in when we're going to get back to school 5 days a week. Folks are interested in our virtual model. Just to let you know, we've got 2,568 students who are going to be leaving virtual as of Monday and going to face-to-face. So a lot of logistics going on from bus transportation to classrooms to reassignment of teachers. All of those are happening to be ready for Monday. That's going to leave 3,734 students in virtual. So from students who have left for other reasons through the first semester and this group leaving now, our virtual student population has almost been cut in half since we began. We aren't accepting any new students into the virtual model at this time, with very few exceptions. Documented changes in medical circumstances, things like that will lead to a change. But otherwise, we really aren't moving students from face-to-face into virtual. As I mentioned, teachers are moving from the virtual setting in many cases back to their home schools. So that's going to be a change for them and for a lot of other folks. Home schools are contacting families this week to ensure that they understand the process for getting back into face-to-face instruction and answering questions, making sure that everything's going to run smoothly for that on Monday. Another thing that is exciting is that our one-to-one personalized digital learning initiative is getting up and running. We call that Learning Virtually Everywhere, LVE. And all of our middle and high school students have now been issued laptop computers. Teachers are receiving professional development on delivering content through our learning management system. So all of those things are on track. It would have been wonderful to have been able to roll those things out 6 months ago, but almost immediately when the pandemic hit, supplies of computers and other devices just completely disappeared. You might have noticed if you went to buy a computer for your home, it was very difficult to find. The shelves were empty. Amazon struggled to keep up. The major manufacturers, Dell and others, had trouble with that too. But now we're catching up. We've got middle and high school taken care of. We'll start issuing computers in elementary schools in just a few weeks, with the goal of having that finished by spring break. So we're working to make sure we have the tools in the hands of our students. We're working to make sure that we have the tools in the hands of our teachers. Technology upgrades and new technology in classrooms that will help us to move toward a more synchronous remote system, so that we're able to teach students at home and teach students in the classroom at the same time. Right now, we're not equipped to do that. But as we upgrade our systems, which frankly may not happen during this current school year, but as we upgrade our systems, we will be able to do that. And then even post-pandemic, we recognize that now that parents have had this option for remote learning, this option for virtual learning through Aiken Innovate and Aiken County Virtual, they're going to continue to want that. And it is a viable option for many of our parents. It was very difficult for a lot of our students and very difficult for a lot of our parents because this was not the model that they felt comfortable with. This was not what they envisioned as their school year for themselves and for their children. But because of the pandemic and the fear of the COVID virus, people chose that option even though they weren't especially comfortable with it in many cases, and they struggled. And we hope to be able to have all of those students back face-to-face sooner rather than later. But there is a segment of the population that really thrives in that virtual environment. And we need to continue to provide that opportunity for them. So that's something that we're working toward now. Certainly won't be as big an operation as we've had during the pandemic, but even post-pandemic, we anticipate virtual continuing to be an option for our students. And we're looking at better and more advanced delivery options for that, so it makes it more convenient, not only for our students and for their parents, but also for our teachers in schools. So we're looking forward to those opportunities. So with that, I think those are all the items I wanted to point out and bring to your attention. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me to share those things.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. The whole idea behind this meeting is to give citizens an opportunity to come and meet the school board and let's have a dialogue. You know, we would like for you to tell us what's on your mind, make comments. You can ask us questions. We don't ordinarily, in our regular meetings, have a back and forth exchange with the public. We do allow public participation, but we don't necessarily allow questions and discussion. But tonight we're going to suspend that and be a little more liberal with that. The only, there are not a lot of people here, so we can be a little more liberal with the time requirement, but you know, around 5 minutes would be an ideal time for statements. We do ask that our exchanges be civil, that they not be personal, that the topics be of general nature about any issue with the school district that you have a comment to make or a question to ask. We do ask that just for our record, our minutes, that we ask you to sign up and just give us your name and some identifying information and your topic. And that's all that's required. When you're ready to speak, come to the podium and give us your name, please, and then have at it. So who would like to go first? Is anyone signed up yet? No sign-ups yet. So anyone who would like to speak, just please come to the podium. That's that thing right there. Come on, yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, evening. My name is Catherine Williams. My daughter attends Aiken High School. My concern was about let me see how I'm gonna put it, keeping the safety of our children while they attend the face school. The reason why I asked about that is because there has been a lot of students who had to go on the COVID virus, what you want to call it, the COVID virus, where they had to stay out for 14 days. My daughter was part of that. And I'm just asking is, what are you all going to do for us the safety of the kids? Are they being monitored? Are they being, for us in classroom exchange? Are they being allowed to, keep it clean? Because there are other ways you can do that. Things being wiped down. What is being done, because when they go, they get a call and say, the child cannot attend school because someone had got tested positive. And that was my only concern about that, going full blast with everyone at school. Instead of the 2 days, I don't know if y'all want to change that or y'all talking about changing that. I feel the 2 days worked it good because they had space to space out. Once you went 5 days, they had no space to space out. And this COVID virus is real. I'm not trying to be perfect, but it is real. And we all know that. And I just want us to, as y'all lay down the laws, keep that in mind. It is real. And it's touched. Until it touch your family, people you know, you think don't exist, but it is real. There's been 4 or 5 people I know personally who have died from that virus. And that's my only concern. But I'm here tonight is to get the safety. What are y'all doing for the safety of the kids as they attend school? What are y'all doing? Or is keeping them, because some kids, they are really scared. Y'all think they are not, but they are. I'm a person always being around a lot of kids, and I know they talk to me, and they are scared, but they have to do what they have to do. They have to abide by what y'all say. So I hope that while we do this tonight, that we are concerned about our kids. And in the classroom, you don't never write down nothing. And they just continue changing class, and they'll have a period where they say, okay, this is clean up time. Okay, we're gonna write down stuff, because kids are coming in and out of the classroom. That's just some suggestion I just feel that need to be taken into sight because I asked. And I'm just bringing it to you on the table that is not have been done. And like I said, this virus is real, and I know y'all doing the best you can. This is something new, and when you come with something new, nobody like to change because we're used to doing what we used to do. But sometimes we got to change. You can't go back. Whoever thought we would be in this predicament? I didn't, and I know you all didn't. And I just want to say that please think about the kids when y'all talking about going full blast in 5 days. You did it and boom, bang. I know about 3 or 4 classes that had to not go to school because of coronavirus. Somebody had it. And so holidays coming up still. And you never know where the kids go. So that's just my main concern. It's right there. And I just hope that while y'all do this, that y'all take all this in mind about this COVID virus and how serious it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, thank you for that. And yeah, there are a number of things that we're doing, and certainly safety for our students is the primary concern for all of us. Mask wearing is a requirement. Distancing to the extent possible. We just got 10,000 new plexiglass shields into our elementary schools. We've got those deployed. Those are going to ensure that there's a barrier between students, even when they're not able to be 6 feet apart. We continue to clean and disinfect every day deeply, but also throughout the day. We're wiping surfaces and doorknobs and extra cleaning in restrooms and those kinds of things. So that's going on throughout the day. That's in elementary school. Middle and high school, those things are also going on. A little bit of an advantage in middle and high school. We don't have all of the plexiglass there, but we're still in the blue and red cohorts, the Monday, Tuesday, and the Wednesday, Thursday cohorts in middle and high schools. And so as students change classes, teachers know that from one class to the next, in most cases, there may be some exceptions, but in most cases, there are enough desks in a classroom. Say there's 15 kids coming into a classroom, and there are 30 desks in that room. The students sit in those desks, and then the next group of students sit in the desks that were empty that previous period, so that the desks can constantly be be wiped down and cleaned to ensure that, you're not following somebody, directly into that same space. Again, there are some exceptions to that, but for the most part, we're attempting to do that. Keeping students in cohorts so that when someone is tested positive, we can track who they've been in close contact with so it doesn't affect any more students or any more employees than it has to. And again, to the extent possible, keeping students 6 feet apart, and where that's not possible, making sure that masks stay on and making sure that we have barriers wherever it's practical to have barriers. So those are some of the things that we do, in constant reminders, reminding people to wear their mask, reminding people that how important hand washing is, reminding people how important it is to maintain that distance. So yeah, it is a constant focus of everybody in the school district to maintain safety for our students.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Any member of the board like to add anything to Mr. Lawrence's statement? Mr. Crane?
Thank you for coming in for the question. Get a little feedback. Just as you're talking about, going back to 5 days, and I just want to toss out there that we did decide last week at our meeting to essentially wait to look at that again until halfway through the next 9 weeks. And it's all going to be based on where the numbers are with the matrix that Mr. Lawrence is going to be looking at, and we'll be revisiting that then. So there's not I think I'll speak here for me, no rush to prematurely go back because of the risks that are there to our students, our staff, our the family members. Everybody on the board either has someone in our family that's had COVID or has had COVID. So we absolutely know, it's a serious thing, and we're trying to treat it that way. That's my take, and I won't speak for everybody else, but I think they would echo that as well. So I appreciate you asking that, just to highlight, that it is important that we continue to focus on the health and safety of everybody, and we're going to keep doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crane. Anyone else? Okay. Mr. Silas. You're not on.
Okay, I think we're there now. Thank you. Appreciate your comments. I'll just add further, certainly student safety is, we say it all the time, is utmost concern, and we all recognize how real it is. I just attended Sunday, the funeral of a 59-year-old deacon and Sunday school director of our church. So someone not vulnerable from a health standpoint. So, every day it's something I think about. But, I guess the last few weeks has been a little bit of an uptick, but I just want to give credit to, district personnel and school personnel and teachers, janitorial staff, because up to now, I think the numbers in the schools have been, at a manageable level. There's one case too many, yes it is, we want to prevent all of them, but I think all those, in the planning and down to the implementation at the school level deserve a lot of credit for, the safety that has been implemented, the safety protocols have been implemented up to now. And I'm sure that'll continue to be a focus, so I just wanted to bring that to light. It'll continue to be important.
Thank you, Mr. Silas. Anyone else? All right, do we have a second speaker? Surely somebody's got an issue that they're just dying to find out about. Please, come forward, please, ma'am.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Melinda Ball. I am here to stand up for myself, others that cannot be here, and others that don't have the courage to stand up for fear of retributions. Please put our kids back in school full-time, 5 days a week with face-to-face instruction. Governor McMaster has stated that he wants our kids in school full-time with face-to-face instruction. My daughter's petition, my daughter Melanie, who has spoken at the past 2 board meetings, her petition continues to grow with names of kids that want to be back in school with full-time face-to-face instruction. As you have said, over 2,500 kids are coming back into the school system from virtual next week. This should be a sign that more parents are choosing to have their kids in school. Aiken County school parents were surveyed back in June. Maybe it's time to survey Aiken County parents and teachers again, then break down the results by school and give the overwhelming majority that reply what they want on a school-by-school basis. If one school supports full virtual learning at this time, then give them full virtual learning. If another school wants full-time face-to-face, then give them full-time face-to-face. If they want to stay in hybrid, let them stay in hybrid. Hospitals are not overwhelmed right now. Folks are discharging daily with a diagnosis of COVID. Less than half of the ventilators in use right now are from COVID patients. Vaccinations are available. I have been vaccinated myself. In fact, I just received my 2nd vaccination this past week. Let's get our teachers vaccinated and get our kids back in school with full-time face-to-face instruction. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone want to respond? I'm having a terribly difficult time hearing up here, so I may make remarks about something that I thought I heard that I really didn't. But I think that the gist of your remarks were that you feel that we ought to allow schools or determine the instructional model based on what's going on in a particular school rather than district-wide.
Yes. That is correct. Yes. And maybe try taking a surveying the whole county system again, like you did back in June, before the kids even went back to school, where the parents were surveyed and we all got to fill out a survey and give our opinion about what we thought about with safety and kids going back to school. Because, you know, from the last board meeting, I believe it was only one of the board members that actually spoke up and said that she did speak to her constituents and say exactly what the constituents wanted in her district. And I don't think I heard anything from the rest of you at the last school board meeting about what your constituents actually want in your district. And so I want to just suggest that maybe you survey your folks in your districts and see what they want, because, you know, teachers are afraid to get up and speak. All you're hearing from is from the teachers that don't want to go back and that are scared. And all the teachers that I talk to, they're just too scared to get up here and talk. And that's basically the reason why I'm here. That's the reason why you keep seeing me here, because I just feel I need to be here to stand up for my daughter and stand up for those teachers that are too scared to stand up here and ask to go back to school full time.
I have been a pretty major advocate for approaching identifying the instructional model to be used in a particular school based on the particulars of that school, the status of that school. By status of that school, I mean how much COVID is in the school, how many cases do we have in a particular school, and we also have to consider how many quarantine cases we have in the school. There is a disparity district-wide from school to school. In other words, some schools have very low incidences, others have very high. So that has been a focus. We did adopt in the motion at the last meeting, we gave Superintendent Lawrence flexibility to start doing that in 4.5 weeks. We voted as a board. I was the dissenting vote. We voted as a board to remain in the hybrid model for the next 4.5 weeks. Mr. Lawrence then will look at it, and whoever he involves on his staff will look at it on a school-by-school basis and make decisions about what is appropriate for that particular school based on those two factors and perhaps some others, like teacher loads and this kind of thing due to the virtual kids coming back and the things that we don't anticipate. But the major determinant will be what is the incidence of COVID in the school and what is the quarantine case. Anything over 25% faculty quarantine will require the school to be shut down because we can't operate with that few teachers. The incidence number is 3% or greater. That's the shutdown. Now we can go back the other way. Right now, the last numbers I looked at is district-wide, we are less than 1% in terms of incidence. There are some schools that are higher than that, and then there are other schools that are lower, but the average is less than 1%. And the quarantine was, I forget it was, but it was well under 25%. So hopefully this is going to address your concern in a month. I'll be glad to let anybody else respond or add to what I've said or correct what I've said, whatever. Anyone? If not, I hope that addresses your question and gives you some answer as to what we're thinking. Thank you for your comments and questions.
Thank you very much. And I just hope that you'll listen to the governor of our state as well, who has stated that he does want the kids back in school full time. And he has also stated that the state does have supplies to keep our kids safe. And it would be nice if our school district could reach out to the governor and get these supplies into our classroom.
Thank you. I think Mr. Silas does have a remark.
Yeah. Ms. Ball, appreciate your comments again. I think we've traded a couple of emails from time to time, so I felt like I needed to address one of your questions, and that's have we talked to constituents and what am I hearing? So I'll just tell you what I'm hearing, and it's really kind of all over the map. I hear, and people are very passionate about going back to school 5 days a week, and there are probably just as many that say, we're probably okay where we are right now. So I hear both sides, I really do. And personally, and I think everybody thinks we should get back to 5 days as quick as we can. So some of the thoughts that's going on in my head, just to give you an idea, is if you had asked me before the Christmas break what I thought we'd do when we came back, I would have probably said, I really feel like when the semester ends, we'll make a step toward, at least I would have been prepared to support a step toward getting back to 5 days in middle and high. As the holidays went on, we started to come back. I'm thinking, with the severity of community spread, I thought it would have been ridiculous to put our students back in crowded classrooms, changing hallways in middle and high school, as we were coming back out of break going into the last meeting. So that's just, where my thought process was. I didn't think it would be a smart thing to do considering what's going on in the community, even though we're doing a really good job in the schools, but I just thought back that may exacerbate, the problem that we're seeing in the community. So just kind of to let you know where my thoughts are, and certainly the goal is to get back to 5 days. I enjoy hearing your daughter speak, and I think, it's from the heart, but let's see where we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silas. Mr. Crane?
Mr. Lawrence, can you speak to materials from the state? Kind of where we are on that, because we are involved there, but you give a little insight there?
Yes, sir. We are taking advantage of whatever safety supplies and equipment the state has available. There's some things that they don't have available, and so we're going out to independent vendors and getting those things like the 10,000 plates of glass shields that we just got in. Those weren't available to us, so but we were able to secure those somewhere else. On the vaccine, teachers and school personnel still aren't eligible for the vaccine. We've asked the governor to move teachers and school personnel to the top, at least to the top of the 1B list, but I don't think we've gotten a response on that yet.
Anyone else? Thank you, Ms. Long. I'd like to editorialize just a minute to tell you that we are in an unprecedented situation. We've said this before, but I think we need to repeat it over and over and over again. None of us up here really know what the best thing to do is, because we've never been down this path and we don't know what works best. One thing that I know is that even though we may have different views on what is the right thing to do or the best thing to do, is that everybody up here is up here because they care about kids and they care about education. And whatever the decisions we make are the best decisions that the majority of the board members think are right or best. People really get angry if we don't vote the way they want us to vote. And I understand that. It's frustrating. Parents are struggling. A lot of people are out of work. We're putting additional financial strains on families because of having to get child care. And that, that's a real issue. We feel like, I think I can speak as a board, we all feel like that children are going to learn best 5 days a week in person, in school. We have to balance that against the concerns about the health of children, We try to walk that tightrope and look at numbers and talk to physicians and whatever and decide what is the best thing to do at this point in time, given the numbers that we have to look at in making a decision. I'm sorry that we can't please everyone, but this is a diametrically opposed kind of situation where half the people want us to do one thing, the other half want us to do something else. So what we sort of have to do is really do what we're elected to do, and that's make the best decisions that we can make given the information we have and given where our hearts are. We all want to do what's best for everybody, and we try to do that. So that's what goes on that you might not really see, or know. We all wrestle with this. We talk about it to one another. We read publication after publication. We listen to this person, that person. We receive tons of emails, and then we do the best we can. Anyone else like to make a comment? Ms. Hanks, Dr. Hanks.
Ms. Ball, I just wanted to say that although I may not have mentioned speaking with my constituents at the last meeting, I always talk and I always listen. And I can say before we broke for Christmas, the majority of the constituents that contacted me versus email, phone, or whatever, it was really split. Half wanted to be back in class full-time, 5 days a week, which I can't wait for us to get there. And the other half did not. They absolutely want to stay with the hybrid. Once we came back after Christmas break, and as Mr. Silas said, the spread of the community was just astronomical. The hospitals are screaming. 1.2 million in travel that happened across the nations that was not expected by the airlines. The tone of the calls that I received totally changed. And most of the parents that contacted me, it wasn't 50-50 anymore. The majority were saying, under no circumstances can we send our kids back into a full-time face-to-face situation with the numbers being what they are now. So I admire your daughter. Her enthusiasm is just lovely to see. And just know that we all hear you. We all feel the same way you do. and we are working hard to get our students back into the classroom full-time when we can. And as you know, Mr. Lawrence will now be making that determination based on where the numbers are, when things can calm down just a little.
Ms. Seeley?
I just want to say that I agree with just about everything that I've heard tonight. As Dr. Bradley said, we are in an unprecedented time, and the decisions we have to make are hard decisions. And as he said, you know, we don't know what the right answer is. There's no perfect answer. And so I know all of us have given a lot of thought, you know, to the decision we made at the last meeting. And I just want to share, as Mr. Silas did, a little bit about what was going through my mind as we voted. And first of all, like I said before the meeting that we had last time, I reached out to some administrators and to some teachers and to some parents in my area because I wanted to hear what their thoughts were. And I know everybody on the board is the same way. They want to hear, but you know, we want to listen. We may not vote, as has already been said tonight, exactly the way everybody wants us to vote, but we're not going to please everybody. But I can assure you we all listen. And I took into account what I heard, and also took into account the situation in my area, especially with virtual. And I've said this many times, but I know the virtual program, even though it's a great program, it's not working well in the rural areas just because the internet signal is not strong enough, and students and parents are having a lot of issues with it. And we're doing everything as a district, I know, to try to get that resolved, but it's not a quick fix like we want it to be. So that was one of the things that I looked at, and as somebody said earlier, with the uptick in the COVID numbers, I knew that it wasn't going to be a wise idea to go back to 5 days a week, even though that's where my heart is. I'd love to see us go back to a full face-to-face schedule. And I hope that we can do it as quickly as possible, but we also want to do it safely. And I knew that it was not going to be a wise thing to do right after the holidays because of the COVID numbers. And the majority of the people that I heard from were saying that they wanted to stay with hybrid, that would give us, you know, a little bit of stability and consistency that the students need, and it would also continue to keep the students and the staff as safe as possible during this time. So those are the things that I was thinking about when I voted, and I know everybody on this board gave it a lot of thought and consideration as well. It's not something that we take lightly, and I think that all of us, you know, want to definitely get back to that 5-day schedule as quickly as we can, as soon as it's safe to do so. And so I hope we can do that pretty soon.
Thank you, Ms. Sheehan. Anyone else? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make remarks to the board? If so, please come forward. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Y'all heard from me before. I'm John Pettigrew, live at 120 Basswood Drive, and have a daughter at Schofield Middle School and a daughter at Aiken High School. And I'm glad to hear a number of you tonight express your desire to return to 5-day classroom instruction. And I don't think, hopefully, none of you dispute that for the great majority of our students, that is the best way for them to learn. Being in the classroom with a teacher, face-to-face, teaching the subject matter. And numerous studies have shown, now we've been doing this for, I guess, about 10 months, and numerous studies have shown that our students are suffering educationally, socially, psychologically, from not being in the classroom. They're losing that stability, and for most students, it's just a better way to learn, having that teacher there teaching them and being right there if they have questions, and helping them to grasp that subject matter. And, you know, as Mr. Lawrence just pointed out, over 2,500 students and parents, being certainly a big part of the equation, have chosen to go from the virtual back to face-to-face. They've tried the virtual, and for whatever reason, you can probably figure out that it's because of the education of their child. They feel that it's safe to go back to school and best for their children overall to be back in face-to-face as opposed to the virtual model. Now, I know a few students probably learn better on the virtual, but I think that's the small minority. So the parents and students have voted with their feet by coming back to school. And so, you know, hopefully soon we will be able to return to the face-to-face 5-day instruction. Of course, we don't know what the next 3 or 4 weeks the numbers will look like, or what Mr. Lawrence may recommend or may do on a school-by-school basis. I think that's a good move to look at the numbers on a school-by-school basis, because Aiken County School Districts are large districts, and there are different numbers in different schools. So hopefully we'll be able to return to that soon. But if we're not able to return to that real soon, I ask that we try to make the hybrid better. Okay, we've been dealing with it for a while, and it really, I think if you talk to the parents, it's 2 days of classroom and 3 days of self-directed homework. I mean, that's really what it is. It's not a virtual learning situation where a teacher is talking to the students those 3 days they're not in class. So I'd like to ask, is there some way that we can live stream teachers to the students so that they can view it on their computer? I know years ago, SCE-TV had that in the schools, where a teacher would be teaching a class and people all over the state could watch that class. Technical colleges do it. And I know it would take some figuring out and some coordination and some work. But if we're going to be in this hybrid model for a while, it seems like we can figure out a way to make the hybrid better. And just one thought was, okay, we've got cohort A, cohort B. All right, why couldn't we have cohort A go to class Monday and Tuesday as they do now, and then let cohort B watch that instruction live stream on Monday and Tuesday. Then on Wednesday and Thursday, let cohort B come live, and it'd be new material, and cohort A would watch it live stream on Wednesday and Thursday. So you would in that way you would have a teacher teaching the students new material 4 days a week rather than 2 days a week. And then Friday, I think early on it was said you needed a day for preparation and cleaning up and whatnot, so that could continue to be that. You could have some self-directed homework for Friday. But if you follow what I said, 2 days a week the students would be in class, and the other 2 days a week they would watch new material on live stream. And I just wondered, you know, is it possible to do something like that? And I think amount of material that would be covered with the students and the ability of the students learning under the hybrid model could probably be enhanced from what we're doing now. So I'll just throw that out there and see if there's any possibility that we could enhance that hybrid model since we may be with it for a while.
Thank you, Mr. Pettigrew. Anybody?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Mr.
Thank you,
Clark?
Mr. Pettigrew. Yeah, we are moving toward having the ability to do something like that. Synchronous instruction that you're describing is kind of like a three-legged stool. Well, for middle and high school at least, we now have one of those legs. So every student has a device, and we have a device for every student in middle and high school, and we'll soon have that for elementary. The second leg of that stool is the technology in the classroom and the ability, I mean, a teacher could have their laptop or their desktop camera aimed at them, but that really diminishes the effectiveness of being in the classroom with those students. So there's a necessity to pay attention to this computer in front of me while I'm also trying to pay attention to the students in our classroom. So that's a little bit problematic. It's not something that's insurmountable. What we're looking at now is a technology, hopefully in the very near future, that will actually follow the teacher. So the teacher would be able to behave in a normal manner as a teacher with a classroom full of students, but still be able to have that direct instruction ability to those students in a remote setting virtually. So that's the second leg, having the technology in the classroom. And the third leg is connectivity in the home. And that's probably the most difficult part. And that's something we're getting help from. We're getting help from groups like NAACP gave us hotspots. State of South Carolina gave us hotspots. Aiken Electric Co-op gave us hotspots. And I know that they're working with some third-party folks out in the Wagner and Ridge Spring area to bring broadband into those areas. So we're moving in that direction. But right now, there's still a large number of our population that doesn't have the ability to receive that. Now, again, that's not something that's insurmountable. I'm sure that in some of the best connected areas in the country, there are still some homes and still some people who don't have connectivity, so we would have to deal with that. And perhaps those are situations where we upload information to the computer and they watch the tape version of it instead of the live version. But I think that the suggestions that you have are very valid and very good. My hope is that they're unnecessary. My hope is that before we can get any of that up and running, that we've got students back in school every day. But while we're working toward that goal, we're still working toward making hybrid more efficient for all of our students, and that's certainly one way to do that.
Thank you. I hope that we also can get back to that 5-day face-to-face very quickly, but I was just hoping that in the meantime there may be a way to improve the hybrid. So, thank you.
Mr. Crane.
Thank you, Mr. Pettigrew. Always good to hear from folks that come, and we appreciate having folks that are able to come to all of our meetings and know what we're doing. I would just say maybe two additions to that. First being, I'll reiterate the concern for essentially 2/3 of the geography of Aiken County has no or terrible internet access. It's not quite 2/3 of the student body because there's a corridor that essentially runs from City of Aiken to City of North Augusta that has good internet. And of course, a lot of the larger schools are there, but you get out here in my neck of the woods, we're out Wagner, Ridge Spring, with Miss Shealy's neck of the woods, and that's a real legitimate issue. I mean, hotspots are nice, but if it's a dead zone, then it's not going to work very well anyways. And then the second piece of this, and this is more of a question for Mr. Lawrence perhaps, but when this all began, the state superintendent essentially said teachers would not be teaching both in person and virtual at the same time. Am I remembering that correctly? Or
I
she
think-
heavily encouraged against that?
Yeah, her point was double duty. In other words, she didn't want teachers, and I certainly agree with this, teaching a full day in the classroom and then having to do another shift after school of virtual instruction.
Okay, so it wouldn't necessarily apply
so
to
this,
that.
If
so.
you're doing it synchronously, yeah, there's still some additional responsibilities and things to deal with, but I don't believe that was her concern. Her concern
Okay.
was a single teacher. I'm teaching these 15 students face-to-face every day, and then I've got my other 15 students that I've got to teach after hours.
But it's a very compelling suggestion. So that we can scratch that one off, which is great. But then the logistics, I think, is still a question mark, and hopefully we won't have to worry about that. And preferably in the short run. I don't think that's going to be the case, but definitely thinking outside of the box on a good improvement idea, and I appreciate you bringing that to us. Thank you.
Anyone else? I would like to say that even when virtual is no longer here, I mean, COVID is no longer here, there is a place for this kind of instruction. You know, what I envision is having a camera in every classroom, so that as long as COVID is here and we're in hybrid, following a model very similar to what Mr. Pettigrew suggested, that we could have half the class attend class from home. You don't have to have a special network and special set of instruction or whatever. The kid is in a class, he comes to class 2 days a week, he stays home 2 days a week, and on the 2 days he's home, he gets to participate in the class just as if he were in the classroom virtually by being signed into that class room. There are things to work out, but the technology exists for that to happen. All we need is to invest in the equipment and some tweaking, planning of how to schedule this and do it. And we can do it. The other point is that we have small schools. Some of them have as many as 4 students wanting to take a chemistry class. It's really not very economical to offer a chemistry class for 4 students, but yet again, it's certainly not fair to not be able to offer that class. It's possible that we could collect all the students at Ridge Spring Minetta High or Wagner Sally High or any other school that has just a few students wanting to take a particular course. Have one teacher teach that course to all those kids virtually at the same time. That'd be a significant savings to the school district to be able to do that. And it would work probably just as well, if not better, because you could have a very highly trained teacher teaching all those kids in the bigger school. It was, we were asked to submit goals to the newspaper the other day. This was my number one goal, is that we've got to do something to make virtual instruction better. A lot of people are working hard at it. They're doing the best they can. It's just that we got caught flat-footed. We haven't had time to really tweak this thing and develop it as much. People are working really, really hard. Our teachers and the other people in the district office who are involved in this are trying to make it good. But the truth of the matter is that we really just haven't quite tweaked it and got it up to where it needs to be. And I think that the best thing to do is not to try to have a separate instructional program for virtual, but be able to tap into the one that the child would be exposed to if he were going to school full time. And I hope that's what we're going to work. We're in an unprecedented situation right now. We are going to get money for COVID to fix some of the things that COVID has created. And we may be in a financial position to really make some strides in this direction, but we haven't had an opportunity to discuss that as a board or anything. It just happened, so that's on down the road. But again, thank you, Mr. Pettigrew, for your ideas. Who else would like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
name is Tracy Hooks. I wasn't going to speak, but in light of Mr. Pettigrew, spirit of improving hybrid, I have 3 high schoolers. That's 21 teachers at my house on hybrid. And the biggest issue that we consistently have is math. Doing high school math 2 days a week is extremely hard, especially in classes like pre-calculus. We have 2 pre-calculus students and a geometry student. All 3 of my high schoolers' math grades are down 1 or 2 grades from where they normally are, mainly because of lack of face-to-face instruction. So my question is, if we want to improve hybrid a little bit, is there any reason why we couldn't figure out a way on Fridays for kids to have an opportunity to sign up for additional instruction in just math? Because math is very difficult to teach for an English person. So just a question.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. We're certainly open to any ideas, and we'll certainly have the instructional team look at that. That's really a logistical thing, so we can take a look and see what the possibilities are.
Thank you, Ms. Lawrence. Anybody else? I really know what you're talking about. I'd have never learned math. You know, in most classes I went to, I could read the book and get pretty much what I needed to pass the test, not math. It may be that we could, you know, with some additional funds, we might could add a tutorial, online tutorial schedule or something. What we really need to do is, you know, one of the requirements of the funding we're getting is that we look at ways to remediate what students are missing due to COVID, and we'll be studying that in detail. But very good idea. Thank you for your comment. Who else? Who's next? Last chance. Board members, before we close out. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Oh, that's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I started not to speak, but in lieu of what Mr. Pettigrew said, I like that idea. My daughter currently is all virtual, and she's a student 9th grade at Aiken High. With virtual, she has some honors classes, but her grades, like the young lady said, are slipping. And it's mostly due to the fact that she's not getting the instructions from her teachers. They may have a 30-minute session, some may have a 50-minute session, and some have been as less as 10 minutes. Then by virtual, it's more self-paced, and like the board member said, I live in a rural area, and we have a hotspot. We have a Verizon hotspot from Aiken High, but the pages would take so long to load till she just gets so frustrated. Now, we're at the end of the semester, and they're asking that everything be completed by January 22nd, although when we did the interim, we were told that they would be able to go back and redo any missed assignments because the teachers were instructed to put zeros in to put grades in. So now she's playing catch up, but I was told that it was because some kids, like you said, are going to in person, but that's kind of active for the ones that want to remain virtual. So my question is, once they do all the grading for the ones that want to in person, is there some way where they can go back in and open up those units for the ones that's remaining virtual to be able to complete their assignments? Because it is a self-paced and they're basically teaching themselves to do the work. So is it possible for them to be able to still, after the 22nd or after they got everybody completely going to in person, to be able to open those units back up for those virtual? Thank you.
So, Laura?
I may ask Mr. Postel to help me with that, but one of the reasons for cutting off the opportunity to change at the semester is that semester grade goes in and they start with the second semester. So I don't believe once that grade is in Power School and is reported on the record, that they can go back and do any additional work on that. Is that correct, Mr. Postel?
Yes. Anyone else? Next speaker. Anyone else wishing to speak? Board, Mr. Crane?
I'd like to thank everybody that's come out and shared your thoughts with us. We absolutely appreciate it. I think all of us have pretty good open door policies. So if there is somebody watching that has a thought or comment or question, please send it to us. We will get back to you, not during a meeting, but when we can. I just want to, first of all, thank Silver Bluff and staff for hosting us, and Jeff for setting everything up. We appreciate you very much. Dr. Briscoe for having us. Good luck to the Lady Bulldogs tonight against Wade Hampton. I hope you stomp them into the dirt, metaphorically speaking. For those that haven't been out to Silver Bluff in a minute, I want to thank Dr. Murphy and Mr. Lawrence for helping advance some fencing and security issues around back. It's probably too dark to see any of that right now, but if you board members want to scoot around the side and see, you won't be able to go too far, which is excellent. So I want to appreciate y'all for that and helping make that happen. That's been an ask for a while, and we definitely appreciate it. And that's it. Thank everybody for coming. Appreciate it.
Anyone else? I'd like to also extend our gratitude to the administration here at Silver Bluff for hosting this event this evening. We appreciate your hospitality. I'd like to thank all of the speakers who came and expressed their opinions and so forth. It's very useful. Thank you very much for being here. I'd like to also thank the parents district-wide who are caught in the situation and are struggling to help try to provide education for the students in very trying times, and also to the educators, teachers, administrators who are struggling to cope with the unprecedented problems that we're encountering because of the COVID. They're all doing a wonderful job, and I'm sure the board joins me in thanking you for that. If there's nothing else, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Mr. Smith, a second. Seconded by Mr. Nessel. All in favor, please raise your hand. That's everybody. We stand adjourned. Thank you again.